Good afternoon, everybody. I am Vibhu Swain from Power Tech Consultant. Today, we'll start our webinar number 7. This is useful for uh, book those who are appearing for paper 2 as well as paper 4. So, let me share my screen to all of you and so that you can see the presentations. So this is webinar number 7, and so we'll start. And in this, we'll study about the chapter 1 of book 2, that is remaining portion of fuel and combustions. Now, this is very important because through this we can calculate about boiler efficiency. We know about different type of combustions, different principle of combustions, and the heat value generated. So let us study it. And what is combustions? Basically, combustion is nothing but mixing of fuel with oxygen. And we all know the solid or liquid fuel must be changed to its gas state before they will burn. That means when you add some fuel with oxygen and have an flame or it add some temperature, then the whole fuel burns. So this is basically the principle of combustions, and you require oxygen for that. Almost the oxygen is a common element in the earth, and in the air it is almost 21% is oxygen. Also another 79% of air is almost nitrogen. Now for fuel, solid fuel or liquid fuel, it must be changed to a gas before they will burn. But this 79% of nitrogen, what it do? It actually temperature reducing dilutant. That means if oxygen help in combustions, nitrogens reduce the combustion efficiencies. It reduces the heat available, and also it increases the volume of combustion byproduct. That means in the dry flue gas you will have CO2 as well as nitrogen. Because of nitrogen, you have higher IDFE unloading, higher dust handling, higher gas handling equipment. So nitrogen is basically a temperature reducing dilutant, and it reduces combustion efficiency, whereas oxygen is required for complete combustion. Now also at high temperature, what happens, that nitrogen mix with oxygen, and at high flame temperature it produces oxides of nitrogen, which are toxic pollutants. That means you will get NOx, which causes nitric acid when reacts with what, H2O, and it becomes a major cause of acid rain. Now what are the major components which actually burn with oxygen in a fuel? These are carbon, hydrogen and sulfur. And when they burn with oxygen, they give us to carbon dioxide, water vapor and sulfur dioxide. Now see this equation. This equation is very important. We have to remember these equations. C carbon plus O2 is equal to CO2. And by these combinations, a heat energy is released, that is almost 8084 kilocalorie per kg of carbon. Similarly, when partial combustion of carbon takes place, through which you get a lot of black smoke or through which you got a lot of carbon monoxide, in which incomplete combustion is there. What is the equation for that? 2C plus O2 is equal to 2CO. This is carbon monoxide, this is carbon dioxide, and you get a heat energy of 2430 kilocalorie per kg of carbon. That means this is a incomplete combustion. You are not getting the full energy of the carbon, and some unburned carbon is going along with the dry flue gas. Now if hydrogen is there, how much of what is the equation? 2H2 plus O2 is equal to 2H2O. You get higher amount of energy, that means 28922 kilocalorie per kg of hydrogen. Since hydrogen percentage in a fuel is very minimum, therefore you may not get that much of energy, but if you see percentage wise, per kg of hydrogen you get very good amount of energy, that is 28,922. Similarly, for sulfur, you get sulfur plus O2 is SO2, you get 2 to 4 kilocalorie per kg of sulfur. That means this is the complete equations how carbon, hydrogen and sulfur reacts with oxygen and give you a heat energy. Now each kilogram of CO found means loss of 5654 kilocalorie of heat. That means this 8084 minus 2430. That means if you are producing CO, you are helping in complete combustion, then black smoke will be produced and there will be a loss of energy. Now what is 3T? Remember, 3T means temperature, turbulence and time. That means 3 T's are very much essential for complete combustions. Temperature should be high enough to ignite and maintain ignition of fuel. That means temperature should be high. And turbulence means there should be mixing of fuel and oxygen. That is a mixing of fuel and air. So turbulence or intimate mixing should be there. And time sufficient to complete combustion. That means you have to give enough time so that the fuel gets completely burnt and you don't have unburnt, and there is no unburnt in the ash, or there is no unburnt going out to the atmosphere with dry flue gas. So triple T are important for good combustions. Now just see this example. You are mixing fuel, you are adding air. Air means you require basically oxygen, but nitrogen is already there. So this is a perfect combustion. That means you are getting N2, water and CO2. Why now SO2? Because sulfur is not present in this fuel. Similarly, let us come here. Here we got, this is a perfect combustion in which no O2 is going out. But in good combustions, you are giving fuel, air, but you are getting some amount of O2 along with N2, H2, CO2. Why this A2? Because it is very difficult for anybody to control or give exact amount of air required. Sometimes you give some excess air, that is required. When you give excess air, some portion of that oxygen reacts with fuel to produce CO2 and H2O. But balanced oxygen remains in the air, which goes out in the dry flue gas. So this is a good combustion, but this is a perfect combustion. But in good combustion, you have to give excess air. But what is this incomplete combustion? You are giving fuel, you are giving little amount of air, or perfect air is not there. You are not giving enough time for the fuel to burn. T is not there, turbulence is not there, and temperature is not very high. So triple T is missing here. So you are getting CO or carbon monoxide. Therefore, too much or too little fuel with available combustion air may potentially result in unburnt fuel, carbon monoxide generations. Challenge for combustion efficiency is unburnt carbon. If you can remove unburnt carbon or carbon monoxide or unburnt in the earth or incompletely burned gas, then you will achieve good combustion efficiency. Now let us understand the combustion of oil. Combustion of oil. Combustion of oil means when you are heating some oil, you have to atomize it. Atomize it because it is necessary to heat the oil so that you will get desired viscosity. Otherwise, what will happen? The oil will not flow at all. And for free flow of oil, so that it will get atomized, that means it will be converted to finer droplets, so that it can mix well with the oxygen and it can burn well. So lighter oil does not require preheating. We have studied that in chapter 1 of book 1. Lighter oil do not require preheating, but particularly furnace oil require preheating. And furnace oil viscosity should be 100 reduced second, which would require heating of the oil about 105 degrees centigrade. That means you require minimum viscosity of around 100 reduced second, and that can be achieved by heating the oil to 105 degrees centigrade. Now, what is these are the that means the viscosity at the burner tip should be a good one, so that the oil can be atomized easily and it can burn easily. What do you mean by stoichiometric combustions? That means, suppose for burning 1 kg of fuel, you require certain amount of air, and that for complete or perfect combustion, the amount of air required is known as stoichiometric air, or basically it is the amount required for complete combustion of the fuel, and efficiency of the boiler depends upon the efficiency of the combustion systems. So this amount of air which is required for complete combustion, this is the minimum air required, is known as stoichiometric air. And how this is calculated? This is important. This is an important calculation. This is very much required, which is also for knowing for all the energy manager and energy auditor, because it is related to calculation of boiler efficiency. It is related to calculation of furnace efficiency. How you calculate stoichiometric air? By calculating the carbon, hydrogen, and sulfur present inside the fuel. So this carbon, hydrogen, and sulfur decides the requirement of stoichiometric air. This stoichio is spelling is a little bit wrong. It is stoichiometric. This I will not be there. Then now let us see how much of fuel is required. What is the combustion air is required for a fuel containing 86% of carbon, 12% of hydrogen, 2% sulfur. This is around 14.1 kg of air is required for burning 1 kg of typical fuel oil. This you can remember. Suppose 1 kg of fuel oil is there, it has 86% of carbon, 12% of hydrogen, 2% sulfur. Then theoretically, air requirement or stoichiometric air requirement will be 14.1 kg. Now let us derive this one. For this, you have to remember this molecular weight. What is molecular weight? Based on the atomic weight, you decide the molecular weight. Carbon, it is C, the molecular weight is 12. With oxygen, atomic weight is 16, but since oxygen 2 is there, therefore at molecular weight of oxygen is 32. H is 1, but H2 hydrogen gas is molecular weight 2. Sulfur 32. Nitrogen 28. CO2 how it will be 44? C is 12, O2 is 32, so it becomes 44. Molecular weight of CO2 is 44. SO2 becomes sulfur is 32, O2 is 32, so it becomes 32 plus 32, 64. H2O is 2, O is 16, so it becomes 18. Now these things you have to remember. Now come to the equation of combustions. Carbon reacts with oxygen, form CO2. So what is C molecular weight? 12. O2 is 32. CO2 is how much? 44. That means 12 kg of carbon requires 32 kg of oxygen to form 44 kg of carbon dioxide. So 1 kg of carbon will require how much? 32 by 12 kg of oxygen. That means 1 kg of carbon will require 2.67 kg of oxygen. Understood? Now let us apply the same principle. 2H2 plus O2 is equal to 2H2O. That means hydrogen reacts with oxygen to form H2O during the combustion process. Now 2H2 means 4. This is 32. O2 is 32 here. So 2H2O, H2O is 18. 2H2O becomes 36. That means 4 kg of hydrogen will require 32 kg of oxygen to form 36 kg of water. Therefore, 1 kilogram of hydrogen will require 32 by 4. That means 8 kg of oxygen. So here 1 kg of carbon required, 2.67 kg of oxygen, 1 kg of hydrogen required, 8 kg of oxygen. Now let us come to sulfur dioxide. S plus O2 becomes sulfur dioxide. So S is 32, O2 is 32, it becomes 64. Here SO2 is 64. So 32 kg of sulfur will require 32 kg of oxygen to form 64 kg of sulfur dioxide. That means 1 kg of sulfur requires 1 kg of oxygen. 32 by 30 becomes 1 kg of oxygen. So from these three equations, we can know for 1 kg of carbon, for 1 kg of hydrogen, for 1 kg of sulfur, how much of oxygen is required. How much that is? Now let us come to this figure. Now you know this fuel, particularly your furnace oil, what is the compositions? Carbon is almost 85.9%, hydrogen is 12%, oxygen is 0.7%, nitrogen is 0.5%, sulfur is 0.5%. This is a normal given data. So you know the fuel oil constituent, how the percentage of carbon, hydrogen and sulfur are there. Now multiply. You have already calculated 1 kg of carbon require 2.67 kg of oxygen, 1 kg of hydrogen require 8 kg of oxygen, 1 kg of sulfur require 1 kg of oxygen for the complete combustion. Now multiply percentage of weight 85.9. Here multiply 80.59. Here also 85.9. Then here you multiply this 12. Here you multiply this 12. Here you multiply this 0.5. Here also 0.5. That means I am just trying to find out with 1 kg of fuel how much of oxygen is required. In 1 kg of fuel, this C, H and S are present. So what is this? If I multiply this figure, this becomes 229.07. This becomes 96. This becomes 0.5. So total oxygen required is around 325.57 kg. Now already some amount of oxygen is present inside the fuel. What is that? Oxygen already present in 100 kg of fuel. Let us consider this as 100 kg. So here I am considering 85.9 kg for the simplification of units only. So I have considered 100 kg of fuel. That means for 100 kg of fuel, total oxygen required will be 325.57 kg. Now already oxygen present inside this, how much? See, 0.7 kg is already present in 100 kg of fuel. So additional oxygen required will be how much? This total oxygen required minus already oxygen present, so it becomes 324.87 kg. That means the quantity of dry air required will be how much? That means this is the 324.87 kg of oxygen is required. Now find out how much, what is the weight of oxygen in air. In volume it is 21%, but in weight wise, air, the weight of oxygen is almost 23%. So if you require this much of 324.87 kg of oxygen, how much of air will be required? 324.87 by 0.23. That means 12.45 kg of air will be required for burning this 100 kg of fuel. So theoretical required per kg of fuel will be how much? This is 100 kg, 1412.45 divided by 100. That means for 1 kg of fuel you require 14.12 kg of air. This is known as theoretical air or stoichiometric air. This is required for a perfect combustions. Now let us calculate what is the percentage of O2, calculation of theoretical CO2 content in flue gas. Now what will be the nitrogen in flue gas? Nitrogen will be, let us assume in this case, one is in the air, mainly major component are oxygen and nitrogen. How much of oxygen was present? Oxygen was present is 324.87. Then what will be the, and how much of air is required? 1412. So what is the nitrogen in the flue gas? 1412 minus 324.87. That means 1087.458 kg of nitrogen will be there in flue gas. Now let us calculate theoretical CO2 in dry flue gas by volume. Now that means in the CO2 what is the molecular weight? 44. Now moles of CO2 in the dry flue gas, what are now are present? One is present nitrogen, another one is present oxygen, CO2, another one is SO2. Because it is a perfect combustion, so no oxygen is not there, or it is a stoichiometric air we have supplied, so no oxygen is there in the dry flue gas. So only CO2, N2 and SO2 are there. Now calculate what will be the then CO2 percentage. Total CO2 percentage will be CO2 divided by this total weight. Now let us find out what is this total weight. Total weight will be, this is how much? CO2. Let us come to CO2 here. 314.97 kg of CO2. So what is the moles of CO2? 44. So moles of CO2 will be 314.97 by 44, 7.16. Moles of N2 will be 1087.58 by 28, from where you got the weight of nitrogen divided by molecular weight. Then SO2 here, what is the weight? 1 kg divided by this molecular weight. So 1 by 64, it becomes 0.016. So theoretical CO2 percentage by volume will be mole of CO2 divided by total moles. So moles of CO2 is 7.16 divided by total moles, that is nothing but 7.16, 38.84 plus 0.016. So it becomes 15.5%. That means, so CO2 measurement gives an indication of 15.5% of CO2 will be there when you burn a fuel oil, and that is the percentage of CO2 will be present in the dry flue gas. Now let us, but this combustion cannot be so perfect. Sometimes you have to give some excess air. That is known as calculation of constituent of flue gas with excess air. Now let us, you have supplied some excess air. This is required for a perfect and a good combustion. For a good combustion, some amount of excess air is required, because all your air cannot, all your oxygen cannot mix 100% to have good combustions or perfect combustions. So CO2 measured in the flue gas, let us say 10% is the measured. That means you measured CO2 in the dry flue gas by using some apparatus, flue gas analyzer. You measured that CO2 in the dry flue gas is 10%. Now you have to find out from this figure what is the theoretical or what is the excess air has been supplied. Now you have already remembered what is the theoretical CO2 from this 15.5%. What is the actual CO2? 10. So excess air equation is theoretical CO2 by actual CO2 minus 1 into 100. So it becomes percentage of excess air will be 15.5 by 10 minus 1. It becomes 55%. That means you have almost applied 55% of excess air to the combustion process. So theoretical air required for 100 kg of burnt. So this is the theoretical air. How much required? You have already calculated 14.12.4 kg, 45 kg. Now if you are supplying 55% of excess air, how much of excess air will be required? 1412.45 into 1.55, this becomes 2189.30 kg. So what is the excess air quantity here? Nothing, simpler subtraction, 2189.30 minus 1412.45, it becomes 776.85 kg. So out of this, what is the percentage of oxygen? 178.68, because oxygen weight is 23% of total air weight. Nitrogen is nothing but total excess air minus oxygen. So 776.85 minus 178.68 becomes 598.17 kg. These are important formulas. It is very easy to understand. You have to remember the molecular weight and the fuel composition will be given. If you process this equation, you can easily calculate. So what is the final constitution of the flue gas with 55% of excess air for every 100 kg of fuel? Initially we have calculated at stoichiometric air what is the percentage of CO2, SO2 and H2O. But here we are calculating with 55% of excess air for every 100 kg of fuel. What will be CO2? CO2 will be 314.97 kg, H2O will be 108 kg, SO2 is 1 kg. These two are not changing. Just find out from this. Then O2 increasing. Earlier O2 was 0, but in this case O2 is 178.68 kg. N2 is also increasing. N2 is almost from 10872, it is going up to 1685.75 kg. That means you, for a good combustion, you have to supply some quantity of excess air. But that excess air results in higher percentage of oxygen and higher percentage of nitrogen in the dry flue gas. Because of which the ID fan loading, the dry flue gas conveying medium or the equipment gets bulkier, and there is a energy loss. Energy is lost there. But you have to give some excess air, because something achieving a perfect combustion will be little bit difficult. Now calculation of theoretical air CO2 in dry flue gas by volume. Now what is the mole of CO2 in flue gas? Now divided by this. So you have to divide it by what is the moles. Same, applying the same in the theoretical CO2 by existing with excess air. What will be the theoretical CO2? 314 by 44, because 44 is the molecular weight of CO2. SO2 will be 1 by 64. O2 will be 178 by 32. 32 is the molecular weight of O2. N2 will be molecular weight is 28, so 1685.75 by 28, 60.820. So theoretical CO2 by volume will be moles of CO2 by total moles. That means 7.16 by 7.16 plus 0.016, 5.58 plus 60.20. I have added all these four total moles, and what is the theoretical CO2 is the 7.16 moles of CO2. So I got 10%, which I have already calculated here. 10% measure. So I am just recalculating back to show you how this calculation is being done. That means theoretical O2 will be volume will be how much? O2 will be 5.58 into 100 by 72.956, almost 7.5%. So theoretical O2 will be this 5.58, that is the mole of O2, divided by 72.956, that is the total moles. So it becomes 7.5%. That means when you supply almost 55% of excess air, you got O2 almost 7.5%. Now what is the significance here? That means because you are supplying excess air, you are getting good combustions, all your fuel are getting burnt, but your ID fan, your chimney sides, your dry flue gas handling equipment are getting bigger. But here you are getting one advantage, that all your fuel are getting fully burnt. There is no unburnt in the systems. But yes, there is some amount of energy conservation or opportunity has been lost, because you are supplying excess air, due to which ID fan has to work more. That means if you supply more than the required excess air, it is not good for the systems. So oxygen measurement or CO2 measurement in the dry flue gas is an tool to see what is the excess air percentage you are supplying, and whether you can minimize the excess air so that you will get a good combustions and minimize the excess air supplied to the combustion process. Now let us understand what is the energy conservation option in fuel oil fanning. There are four options. One is optimizing excess air and combustion. That means excess air leads to stack loss. As I told you, it leads to dry flue gas loss. It also leads to, but if you supply less air, it will give to incomplete combustion. That means you have to optimize the excess air, so that to achieve good combustion efficiencies. It should not be more, it should not be less. Now control of air or analysis of flue gas by measuring what? Two parameters, CO2 and O2 in ersatz apparatus or potable Faraday. Somebody is asked what is potable Faraday, perhaps in PowerTech consultant Telegram group. I could not answer it, but I thought somebody of you will answer it. It is to measure CO2 and O2. Now with this measurement, now you can understand what is the excess air level, and you can also estimate what is the stack loss. Now the ideal range is for O2, it will be 14 to 15%. Sorry, for CO2 it will be 14 to 15%. For O2 it should be within 2 to 3%. That means this is the curve. Suppose you measure CO2 in a boiler and you get almost, let us say, 14%. So what is the excess air? It's 10%. Now suppose you got 9% CO2. What is the excess air you are supplying? 70%. That means you are supplying extra. You require only 55%. As I told you, 14 to 15%. That means where is the range? It is 10%. So this is the curve which decides what is the excess air vis-a-vis CO2. So by knowing CO2, by measuring CO2, you can find out how much of excess air is supplying. Now, if unwanted is not there, then you can reduce this excess air to this level also. That means 10% of excess air will be good enough. Now, let us come to O2 is 2 to 3%. So, if it O2 you measure that O2 is 2%. That means excess air is also supplied only same 10%. But suppose O2 is 15%, that means you are supplying 250% of excess air. Suppose 1 kg of excess air is required, but you are supplying actually 2.5 kg of excess air. So, in complete combustion, when you measure two things, your CO2 should be higher, then it is a good thing, provided no unwanted is there. And similarly, if O2 percentage is lower, then it is a good combustion. Now, another way of conservation, energy consumption option in fuel firing is oil firing burner. You have to properly atomize the oil fire. You have to mix air, primary air and secondary air in a good manner, and so that good turbulence will be there. Air should be properly mixed with the fuel to get good firing. And turn down ratio. That means sometimes it is a ratio between maximum fuel to minimum fuel without affecting the excess air level. That means suppose you are supplying some amount of excess air, but you need to regulate the maximum fuel vis-a-vis minimum fuel. That means if the load is not there, you have to reduce your fuel flow, but you may not reduce your excess air control. But sometimes the load is very high there, then you have to increase the fuel flow. So the ratio between maximum fuel to minimum fuel without affecting excess air level is known as turn down ratio. So three things are important. You have to optimize your excess air and combustions. You have to optimize the control the flue gas and analyze the flue gas. If oxygen is very high, then you have to take some action. You have to reduce excess air. If CO2 is very low, that means again this is not a good sign. You have to see that excess air, you have to restrict. But during restricting excess air, you should also ensure that the fuel is completely burnt. And another one is oil. By controlling the primary air and secondary air flow, you also can optimize the firing of burner, by which you can control your fuel firing. With this, I conclude the middle portion of the chapter 1 of book 2. In the next session, we'll know further. But this is an important calculation, and you please practice this calculation. Just refer the books, and we'll take up the next session in the subsequent class.